Achewillow. Chapter 11. Melting Snow and Ice Cider. No more Donsolites, at least not for this year. The news, or realization, hits hard. I was starting to understand what these lights really mean to the people of Achewillow. They're the locally flavored version of hanging out at that drive-in everyone loves, or going to the roller rink, or having your first underage drink at the club that doesn't check IDs too carefully. It's a rite of passage and a coming-of-age ceremony, but with that color that only the town of Achewillow can paint over such an event. Even right now, as I look behind me at the assembled citizens who sit around, coffee or tea in hand, talking about all manner of mundane happenings, I understand that most, if not all of them, have seen the lights. They chat about the weather and whatever sports teams are doing well this season. They brag about what they've had for dinner or where they plan on going on vacation when we can travel safely again. But any of them could break from that conversation and ask the question, "Do you remember the lights?" And most would nod yes, probably with a fond look in their eyes. I want that for myself. I hunger for that shared experience that will make me a real member of this community. More than a proof of residence or owning property here, more than being a local culinary celebrity, I'd have that thing that everyone here shares, memories of nights dancing under the Donsolites. It'll have to wait until next fall when, assuming I haven't outgrown the miracle, I'll get night after night of wonder. To think that a little over a year ago, I wanted nothing to do with Achewillow. And now, here I am, mourning an experience that would cement my membership into this loose club of residents. What can't wait a year, however, is getting Pete and Fred back from the lights. Maybe I wouldn't worry so much if I knew they were safe, if I knew the lights were benign, fey beings that took their captives back to a wonderful magic land of chocolate roads and gingerbread homes among streams of sweet maple syrup. It wouldn't be great for their health, and they'd come back with some serious tooth decay, but they'd be alive. But I don't know where the lights have taken them, assuming they weren't vaporized on the spot. An option I'm trying to avoid contemplating too hard. No, if I want to sleep at night for the next 11 months, I need to find out what happened to Pete and Fred. Judging by Annabelle's white-knuckled focus on me, I'd say I'm not the only one who feels this way. "Miriam?" she asks. It's not a rhetorical question, but it might as well be. She wants an answer, but not in the form of information. She wants reassurance. She wants me to tell her that I've got this, that the mistress of the Achewillow Cafe will take care of the situation and has a solution for everything. She wants me to be Doris. Hell, I want me to be Doris right now. I want to reach out, take Annabelle's hand, tell her the exact words that will empower and reassure her. I want to be the balm that heals her terror and then deliver her friends alive and well in the morning. I want Annabelle, Petunia, and Fred to come back here in 2 decades, sit at a table and talk about the weather, their jobs, their kids. And then maybe one of them mentions the lights and they can all reminisce about those magical nights and wonder how much of it was real. But I'm not Doris Dufour. I don't know where the lights come from or what they do. I'm clumsy with my words and awkward with my solutions. Maybe when I have 8 decades of experience as a witch, I'll have the tools to be what Annabelle wants me to be. Maybe I can be that to her grandkids. Today, the best I can do is shrug and act coy. "What is it?" I ask in reply. There's a pause as I watch the spell be broken before my eyes. She looks down at her hands, discovering them anew. "What do we do now? To find Pete and Fred?" "Oh, it's we now, is it? I guess if I can't be Doris, then I might need all the help I can get. You know what? Maybe that's not so bad. I've been relying on my Achewillow mom and my Achewillow dad to bail me out and support me, but maybe it's time to see who my siblings are. Who do I lean on when my Achewillow parents aren't home? Well, no one wants to tell me anything about the lights except reassure me that they're not to blame for anything, which kind of leads me to think I'm not getting the whole story. Full disclosure, Annabelle adds, I only thought they were harmless because that's what I was told. That's what we're all told when we show up to the lights for the first time. Right, I continue. The funny thing is, if you'd asked me this morning, I'd have assumed all sorts of nefarious intent, but what changed? I stay quiet and nudge my eyebrows toward the register. Stefan is sorting through receipts and getting change before pouring some coffee into mugs that he places on a platter. What? He asks, confused. Then, looking back and forth between Annabelle and I, he adds, Fine, just let me get out of earshot. We watch him shuffle off to deliver the drinks. So, what changed? Annabelle asks again, now that Stefan is far enough. Well, I finally got Mayor Lagacé to talk to me. Oh yeah, Annabelle cuts in. Her. The way the word is pushed out through gritted teeth, like a dog might growl at an intruder, not so much making a sound as extruding it out of the esophagus. It's not so much hate that seems to burn her trachea with the word, but something more complex and intimate. You hang with the mayor? Not at all. Veronique Lagacé is a very busy woman, hard to get a hold of. One could go so far as to say that not hanging with the mayor is why the mayor pays for a therapist for her daughter. Oh. Oh no, this isn't good. How did I not notice that? Not that mother and daughter share such an unmistakable physical resemblance, but did I not at least once ask or notice Annabelle's surname? My face must have gone a particular shade of awkward because Annabelle quickly flashes her bright bartender smile at me, playfully punching my shoulder. Hey, don't worry about it. Look at how well I'm turning out. It's not like I'm serving booze at secret parties in the forest or anything. It's the sincerity of the following laugh that reassures me. If she is sincere, or just doing a good job of shoveling dirt over the issue she briefly uncovered, I'm not that much of a Doris yet, but I get the message. So what did Mother Dearest have to share about the lights? She continues. Don't tell me the ever-serious Mayor Lagacé was enough of a teenager to attend back in the day. That is not something I had even considered. The idea that Mayor Lagacé and Mayor Byrne might have, at some point, indulged in the Donselites sounds preposterous. As preposterous as Helen Edna, Notary Public, going? Probably not. And I know that Helen has more of a life than what she shares with me. No, I mean, maybe. She didn't say anything about that. But she knew about the light's origins, and I have to do some digging, but I'm having a hard time seeing anything malicious about them. It's Annabelle's turn to taste shock, and my turn to smile. It's a bit of a walk on the tightrope, however. Veronique Lagacé is not just an accomplished politician, and apparently she's also, to my everlasting worry, a demon slayer and a witch hunter. She knows the secrets of Achewillow and jealously guards the history she's been taught. The mayor isn't simply an elected official. She's an anointed guardian of the city. How much of that bleeds into the rest of the family, though? Does Mr. Lagacé know his wife goes off twice a year with her counterpart from the other side of the border to close a hell gate and hunt down whatever infernal denizens might have slipped through? Does the Achewillow hidden history book sit on the coffee table at home? Does Annabelle know what her mother knows? Do I assume she does or doesn't? My mom told you about the secret origins of the Donselites? She sounds incredulous, which makes me think that magic in Achewillow doesn't get discussed around the dinner table that often. How does she know about that? I'm not sure, I answer, only half lying. She's been around for a while. I guess being mayor, she talks to a lot of people around town. The explanation, as half-baked as it is, seems to work well enough. And to think of it, it's not that bad. In a town where the teenagers dance under magic lights, is it so far-fetched to think that a woman who campaigned for her job might have, in her decades of living here, come across a bit of hidden knowledge?
I guess,
She says, toying with the handle of her mug.
So, what is it? What's the secret origins of the Danselites?
I look to my left and I look to my right. I peer over my shoulder to see who might be within earshot. Only once I'm completely sure that no one can hear us do I lean in and whisper. Madeleine Dufour summoned the lights for her granddaughter Elaine. The Danselites are from the Dufour witches.
I'm sorry,
She says, confused and surprised.
the what?
The snow is wet. This always happens with the first snowfall. It's cold for a day or two, and then you get a few inches, and then the next day it's sunny and warm. Warm enough to melt the snow. That means I'm on a timer. The moment I put my ass down on the park bench, a countdown began ticking from that very second to the moment when the ice-cold melt-off will have seeped through my cheap coat and then my pants. Better garments would have bought me more time, maybe an extra half hour with Thomas Sinclair's coat, a lifetime with Pickering's expensive one. As it stands, past experience has shown that I have about 20 minutes, 30 if I'm willing to let my butt go numb. At least the sun is still in the sky, though dangerously low to the horizon. The light has the orange glow of late afternoon, even though it's barely 3 o'clock.
Which?
Annabelle asks the question for what has to be the 12th time. That's why we left the warmth of the Achewillow and came to the park. Because this isn't a conversation I want to have interrupted by Stefan, or any customer, every 2 minutes. Why is this so hard to believe?
Because,
She says, amusement and incredulity in her voice.
witches aren't real.
What are you talking about? I want to point out that she's the daughter of a demon hunter, but I bite my tongue. Just last night, you were serving drinks under magical orbs of light. What about witches is so hard to swallow? Besides, we're kitchen witches, not ride around on broomsticks turning people into toads witches. She giggles, but only a little out of nerves.
Are you the Congress with the devil kind of witches?
It's my turn to laugh. The very idea sounds so preposterous as to become hilarious. Or at least, that's my initial thought. But judging by Annabelle's tilted head and the inquisitive arching of her eyebrows, maybe I'm wrong. I am not, I answer, but get little reaction. I'm not. I make feel-good food, just extra feel-good. You know how they say the secret ingredient is love? Well, my secret ingredients are intent, will, ritual, and the occasional glyph. She breaks her stare, casting her look out of the park towards Rue Principale. When I look at her, I can see a mound of snow where the old tree stump usually is. She lets out a low whistle and shakes her head, still trying to wrap her head around it all.
That's crazy,
She concludes. Magic lights in the forest, Annabelle.
No, I believe you, but
She smiles and leans back.
it's still crazy. I mean, there's always been rumors, you know? Not about you, but about Doris. How about this?
She nudges her chin towards the sky over the Achewillow church. There, ever present, the giant cumulus floats gently over the cerulean blue expanse. That? I ask, playing dumb.
Yeah, Petunia's cloud. Is that real? Is it really a goddess?
I sigh. This is what this conversation is going to be, isn't it? For a moment, I thought I was getting close to my contemporaries. I thought, after hanging out with Petunia and talking with Annabelle, that maybe there was a place for me among those my own age here in Achewillow. Instead, I realize that it's not just having the cafe that sets me apart. Nor is it that I didn't grow up here like they all did. Rather, the very thin skin of knowledge that I've accumulated in the last few months, and the admittedly incredible experiences I've had, are enough to make me different. A goddess who doesn't like to be kept waiting. The words come out soft and low, spoken more to myself than Annabelle.
Is that a yes?
I don't know. A shiver goes up my spine, the first hint of cold wetness touching the skin of my backside. Something someone told me once. A quiet moment passes as we both let my words linger between us. There seems to be a lot going on behind her eyes. They wander from building to building, person to person. They rest on the fairy wing vendor's booth and linger on the offices of Helen Edna. It's like she's seeing the town of Achewillow for the first time again, a veil pulled from her sight.
Wow,
She finally says.
sorry, but that's heavy. Changes things, you know? Ms. Ashton always kind of looked down on Petunia and hated that Fred hung out with her. You know, because of the faith. But knowing that it's real, or that there's at least something to it?
I nod. I get it. I saw Ms. Ashton's attitude towards the Pilvists. It wasn't what one would call open-minded.
If she knew,
Annabelle continues,
it would change everything. What about the Achewillow tree?
my face splits into the widest smile I've had in a long time. It's like hearing a familiar tune with a good friend and being completely sure that you both know the lyrics. There's a very brief beat before we both say it in one voice.
There's no such thing as an Achewillow tree.
And with that, we break into heartfelt laughter. It feels good. It's its own kind of magic. Fine. I'll never completely fill in the canyon that separates me from those kids. I can bridge it from time to time, maybe shovel in some dirt and try to make it that much less deep. With time, maybe that bridge will get sturdier, more permanent. Until then, it's moments like these that I guess will have to suffice. And perhaps I can learn to appreciate that with distance comes privilege. Like being able to show up to a dance in the middle of the forest and be a superstar for a few hours because I brought the best damn samosas those kids ever ate.
I have so many questions,
She says, catching her breath.
I know, but I probably can't answer most of them. I'm new at this, and Doris wasn't there to teach me anything. You didn't know her?
I shake my head. It's a little sad, now that I think about it, that this girl probably spent more time talking with Doris than I ever did, even though she knew nothing about what Doris did.
Didn't even know I had a great-grandaunt. Did you know her?
Annabelle shrugs. Her boots play around in the snow at her feet as she composes her answer.
As much as any customer, I suppose. She always knew our orders by heart and had a knack for knowing when something was wrong. We talked a little, but then again, Doris talked with everyone. You know, I think she'd be proud of you.
The comment hurts. It hurts because I know it's only being said so I feel better. It's a consolation prize for having never met the woman whose legacy I've taken over.
You're just saying that. I am, but I'm not. Doris was proud of everyone.
I can see from the eager smile that this was meant to comfort me, but it falls flat. It just highlights how I'm not my great-grandaunt. It's a reminder that no matter how much I shouldn't be trying to fill her shoes, I'll always be compared to her. Also, I know myself. I don't have that sort of indiscriminate compassion. I love people, but not as blindly as Doris seems to have done.
We should go back,
I say, already willing to push myself to my feet.
unless you have more questions.
Annabelle makes no move to get up. I can tell she noticed my soured mood, and I hope she doesn't try to further placate it. I don't know if I have the patience for it.
Actually, there is one final question.
I settle back, taking stock of how wet my backside is getting and how cold my skin feels.
Go ahead. You mentioned earlier that the magic was all about feel-good food, but...
She hesitates and breaks eye contact. I don't know where she's going with this, but I already feel the weight of guilt pushing down on me.
Right,
I say.
It's not always feel-good. It's whatever intent and willfulness is imbued in the recipe. I just like to think that Doris, and the rest of the Dufour witches tended towards the more positive recipes.
She nods, like a student trying to understand a complicated lesson and starting to put the pieces together.
But if you needed to, you think you could cook something harmful? Something dangerous? I mean, anyone can poison a dish, but
that's not what she means. She's referring to the kind of supernatural meddling that curses and hexes are made of.
But,
I continue, thinking of Philomene.
One could put a malediction in the right food if one wanted to, I suppose.
Wow, she whispers, deep in thought.
Never thought of Doris as someone with that kind of power, I guess. It's weird to think that she could have enchanted any of her muffins or cupcakes. That's not who Doris was.
I say that with such confidence, but what do I know?
Was it?
Annabelle shakes her head, remembering.
No, but I remember once when I was in first year of high school. I went to the Achewillow to do my homework, and I was having a really hard time with math. Doris brought me a homemade granola bar and hot chocolate, free of charge. I totally aced math that semester. You think that was magic?
I shrug again.
I don't know.
I try to remember if there's anything in the recipe book that might have that effect.
I think it was. Maybe not something intentional like a spell, but I think that there must have been some kind of magic in everything that Doris made. What about you? What about your cooking?
I think about it. I think hard about what kind of magic managed to slip into my baking without my knowledge, and I have to wonder. What I did to Thomas Sinclair wasn't what Doris would have done. It's not something Doris would have been proud of. I shiver, but it's not even from the cold water soaking my pants.
I think it's time for us to go back.
It felt good, for a moment, to talk about what it is that I do. After months of asking what I'm supposed to be doing and receiving a vast catalog of varied but equally useless answers, it was nice to bounce the idea around. The words Dufour witches felt strange indeed coming out of my mouth, but speaking them allowed me to know them for the reality they represent. Not that I needed further confirmation that the hunger demon was real. I see the scar left by that souvenir every time I take a shower. Nor does the existence of ghosts and succubi feel like fiction, though the scars left by those are of the emotional category. All the people who know about the Dufour legacy always seem to be a step ahead of me, jealous to share whatever information they might know. Helen explained it as a sort of local decorum, a social convention to assume that no one knows or should know about the secret history of Achewillow. Annabelle allows me to flip the script. Now I'm the one with secrets to share. I'm the one opening myself up and the town to an innocent mind. I thought it'd be more satisfying. I assumed there was a joy to holding up the cards, but being the one to know which is a jack and which is an ace, only revealing them when and how I choose. I thought this was why Olivia always wears at least half a smile whenever she allows another secret to be known. I was wrong. Sure, the thrill was there at first. I enjoyed the rush of sharing a secret so private, so crazy, and anticipating surprise and disbelief. But once I broke the ice, talking about cooking spells and lurking demons became more of a confession than a brag. I went in proud with what it is I've learned to do in the last year, but left afraid of what I still don't know.
I've been thinking about what happened,
Olivia says, breaking me from my reverie. It's an unusual sight to see my dining room from this angle, but when I came in, Olivia was sitting at one of the tables. Not any table, in fact, but the furthest one from the front door. She surrounded herself with paperwork and lists of potential customers. Olivia is old school, too. No laptop and an actual physical map of the province with notes in thick red marker all over it. What made me walk over to sit with her, instead of giving her a polite wave and making my way to the counter, is the bottle that sits in a place of honor across from her. It's tall and thin and elegant, made of clear glass with a golden foil over the cork. There's no label, allowing a clear view of the honey-colored contents. Now, the bottle's been opened and moved to the side, and the papers cleared away, replaced by plates of cookies and chicken wraps, and 2 glasses of the most delicious ice cider I've ever tried.
What part? The Ashton kid disappearing or how Thomas Sinclair lost his mind? It can be both if you want,
She says, breaking a chocolate chip cookie in 2.
but I'm more worried about the podcaster right now.
I bring my glass to my lips and let it linger under my nose. The sharp yet sweet smell of liquor and apples fills my nostrils. It's almost enough to make me miss the problem with Olivia's reply.
Wait,
I say, putting the glass down without even taking a sip.
you think Thomas going nuts is a bigger problem than a missing kid?
I'm more incredulous than I am angry. I know Olivia. She's caring and attentive, always ready to go out of her way to help others. On my first night in Achewillow, she had me sleep over at her place so I'd be safe. So I'd feel safe. There's a reason I call her my Achewillow mom. To have her show more empathy towards Thomas freaking Sinclair than she does for a missing member of our community is completely out of character for her.
Oh, Fred Ashton will pop back up, and so will Petunia, don't worry. But what happened to Thomas Sinclair? I think we need to talk about that.
There it is. The half smile I thought I'd enjoy wearing myself. The sign of some precious secret shared only 1 drop at a time. I'm not sure I have the patience for it.
Why are you so sure that Fred and Petunia will pop back up? The lights are gone. If they were going to come back, they would have by now. Who cares about Sinclair? He upset Julia. As far as I'm concerned, he deserves whatever breakdown he's having.
She says, taking a sip of her cider.
That's what worries me. Your anger. My anger? I have every reason in the world to be angry at Thomas. And listen, I'm really out of patience for the whole mysterious answers bit. Maybe, if I felt as confident about Fred and Pete's safety as you do, I could focus on whatever you think the issue is with Thomas.
Olivia's eyes drop to the table, looking disappointed in my attitude.
Fine,
She relents.
Do you know where the lights come from? Yes, Madeleine Dufour summoned them, Mayor Lagacé told me. And let me tell you, that I had to go beg her for answers when you could have just told me, that stings.
I let my outburst simmer between us. Maybe people here are used to Doris allowing herself to be walked all over. More likely, they're used to her having all the answers. Either way, as much as I hate confrontation and would rather run up to my apartment than have this conversation, I have to make it known that this is who I am.
Did she tell you why? It was a gift to her granddaughter. But why?
All right, Fig, I think to myself, you got me there. But what does that have to do with anything?
Legend has it,
She continues off my silence,
that when Elaine Dufour was young, she was already not an ordinary child. Mind you, that was 1810 or something. Didn't take much back in those days to be considered strange. And I'm going to bet that being born a Dufour already got you halfway there. But Elaine was a quiet one. She loved animals and she loved to dance, and she fell in love with the son of a local pastor. I'm not going to pretend I know how they teach history in schools today, but back then, witches and the church didn't mix. So Madeleine did what any good grandmother would do and pulled out all the stops to protect her granddaughter. She tried to keep her from seeing her beau, but that just caused them to meet in secret. Obviously. Besides, it's not in the Dufour ethos to keep people from loving one another.
I have a stray thought for witches in media today. All these movies and books glorifying them as icons of feminism and freedom, and here I thought I'd just be making cupcakes for ghosts.
After giving it a thought, Madeleine came up with a solution. The lights. But what do the Donselites have to do with keeping Romeo and Juliet safe?
Olivia picks up her glass of cider and frowns. There's barely a swig left, a situation that clearly displeases the woman. She pours herself more of the sweet liquor and does the same for my glass. Intentionally stretching the moment, she takes a sip and smacks her lips, still appreciating the results of her work. Then she nods, satisfied.
I don't know. Great.
What I do know, she continues before I can really get going with my objection, is that the lights are a sanctuary. Madeline wasn't the kind of Dufour witch that would summon something harmful. I take a sip from my own glass, but the sweetness is lost on me. I can't decide if my reluctance to accept Olivia's explanation comes from its insufficiency or my refusal to go back to square one in my investigation.
Did Elaine marry the pastor's son?
Olivia shakes her head with a slow, sad motion.
She didn't. Want to know when they broke it off?
I do, but also I can easily guess. As much as all this magic stuff feels random and arbitrary, everything is about patterns and symmetry. If you pay attention, and if you know what to look for, you can trace the effects all the way back to the cause. Like how angry German cookies might serve as a vector for thoughts and fantasies of revenge. Under the first snow. Olivia smiles. Whatever disappointment she had lingers, but it's mitigated by a brief moment of pride. Achewillow Mom notices that I've learned some lessons. We sit in silence a little longer, sipping our cider. A damn good cider. And thinking. I can tell that Olivia isn't done with me. She hasn't pulled her map back out, and she's not going on about which stores she's visited and how many have placed orders for her new product.
Why didn't you tell me all this before?
She seems to have to give this one some thought. Genuine thought this time, not the dramatic silence or pregnant pause she usually uses for effect. When she finally has her answers, a fact broadcast only by the sudden arching of eyebrows as she looks to the side, she upends her glass into her mouth. Gone is the slow savoring of subtle bouquets. She's drinking for courage.
Because,
she says, suddenly locking her dark eyes onto mine.
You, Miriam Dufour, are starting to scare me.
Achewillow is written by J.F. Dubow and narrated and produced by me, Amy Frost. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast platform. Want to support the show? Buy us a coffee. Go to ko-fi.com/Achewillow to donate. Achewillow has a Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Achewillow for details. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under the username Achewillow.